Leadership of vendor management often ask, how do I manage vendors more effectively and manage more of them, but with the same amount of resource? For this use case, I want you to keep two perspectives in mind. First, the leadership role, and second, the operational roles that support. For leadership functions, such as the vendor management office, they struggle to operationalize their governance models' minimum standards across the enterprise. Key to this is three reasons. Number one, complexity. So vendor management activity is typically embedded within the lines of business. Therefore, the work gets done by the operational roles, where managing vendors is usually only their part-time job. Second is policy documentation is static and impenetrable. And number three, there is limited opportunity to standardize best practices with no transparency between many roles and teams that interact with the vendors on a daily and weekly basis. For those operational roles, it's difficult to know when to do the right activity at the right time for the right supplier. The BVA platform's governance engine uniquely digitizes your policy and vendor management framework to orchestrate and operationalize the best practice activity as defined in your governance model and controls. This gives you three key benefits. Number one, it enables you to better coach and empower those operational roles. Number two, it allows you to hold vendors to account and drive performance improvements. And finally, it gives you increased agility by aligning your business's strategic objectives to the framework in which you manage your vendors. It's difficult for the leadership of vendor management to set the right governance and controls in place for all the different interactions between the supplier and the many different functional teams within your enterprise. In this demo segment, we'll go through two steps. One, as the head of vendor management, we'll review the governance calendar for our fictional vendor BitTech solutions. And two, we'll show examples of digitized policy operationalizing activities such as actions, risk assessments, and performance surveys to both internal teams and the external vendor. In step one, we're starting off with BVA's relationship timeline. The platform digitizes and distributes policy into a set of standardized best practice processes and actions for all relevant roles and teams that engage with the vendor. In this example, we see our policy come to life across service delivery teams, vendor management office, and executive board. As BitTech Solutions is a strategic vendor, we have a monthly vendor review notified to the service delivery team that occurs every single month. We have a business review, which occurs every single quarter, held by the vendor management office. And finally, we have an annual review held by the senior executive board. The BVA platform automatically alerts when governance review meetings and other controls are required for vendors based on their segmentation, as in this example. The BVA platform goes beyond a simple notification to automate what needs to be reviewed as part of policy that you set centrally. This eliminates a lot of manual effort typically spent ensuring the vendor is delivering against the agreement, and allows those teams to focus efforts on building added value from the relationship. For the second part of the demo, let's look at distributing other policy controls such as actions, risk assessments, and performance surveys. Switching to my inbox, we can see the BVA platform on behalf of the buy-in organization Contorso has sent an email notifying the vendor an action is due to provide the latest disaster recovery testing for a business continuity policy. Second, the vendor has received an email requesting the latest risk assessment responses are due for a given time period. And third, the platform has notified a business stakeholder to provide feedback on how well the vendor is performing. Each email notification provides a link to the action portal, web-hosted survey, or platform, so the role can easily provide their responses, as well as any documentation or evidence that's required. By automating your policy, it enables improved standardization of governance and controls, and two, better promote vendor management best practice. As a result, it minimizes vendor underperformance, maximizes compliance, and allows you to better protect the business from your risk exposure from your vendor portfolio.
To keep up with the latest Brooklyn vendor assurance news, subscribe here and follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. Links in the description below.